Donald Trump and Elon Musk went on Sean Hannity. I mean, they're sitting together like, you know, the footage of like Princess Diana and Prince Charles are announcing their engagement. They seem like buddies. Like, I legitimately, not to psychoanalyze these freaks, but like Elon Musk's father has repeatedly said publicly, I'm not proud of my son. And Elon has to buy guys to be a top video game player. And now he gets to buy a daddy who approves of him finally, right?
I love him. He's my friend.
I love him. I love him very much, as much as a straight man can love another man. He did tweet that. And he only costs like 300 million plus to do it. He can buy. When you're a billionaire, you can even buy your own father. So it's just a bizarre set of circumstances to see Trump sitting alongside the world's richest man and being open about the fact that he's making major decisions in our supposed democracy.
Well, you see a little bit of Trump's deficiencies too, in that Musk, for all of his faults, and he is just like, you know, buying a privatized space program and that sort of things. He's an actual capitalist, whereas Trump is a scammer and real estate guy. Yeah.
Although those are not two entirely separate silos.
Of course not. But Trump would love to have, like, you know, Starlink.
He would have loved to be like a scam artist, but with all of the kind of technological elements that mystify him, right? That he can't fully understand. Throughout
Trump stakes.
You see how he's like, he's really, at one point in the interview, maybe we'll play it later, Elon Musk talks about how Neuralink is going to, you know, solve all of these like paralysis and disease. And Trump is like, he's a brilliant guy. He is. Trump is not, you know, he really is a child in the way that he loves like big explosions and sports and athletes and like Hollywood and television. And he is totally fooled by the like Theranos space move fast and break things BS that Elon Musk spews.
You see why like the Rogan or Lex Fridman style of being insanely naive about all this stuff is really popular, because it goes to the top. And
why, you know, it'll go away because everyone will, I think, eventually realize it's a scam, but it's future focused at the very least. And I think that's in many ways where the Democrats have been lacking as the party of institutional maintenance. It outsources all of the kind of lofty ideas about the future to a bunch of tech charlatans like Elon Musk, who say we're going to colonize Mars, as if that's really going to happen. But of the reporting on this topic, I guess, or the transcripts or the write-ups this morning from the papers about this interview, the Department of Education stuff hasn't gotten as much coverage. This is one of the answers in this interview that was I wanted to highlight and debunk a bit.
Go to an area that I think is key, and you talked about this in recent interviews, and that is we don't need a Department of Education, okay? And what some people are trying to do is stoke fears that, oh my gosh, my kid's not going to get the money for education, or grandma's Social Security and Medicare. This was a big promise of yours on the campaign trail. So I really want to give you both an opportunity to assure the American people you will keep, the money will be allocated for students, but with higher standards, for example, I would assume associated with monies given or vouchers.
So much, and then Elon goes, but look, Social Security won't be touched, other than this fraud or something we're going to find. It's going to be strengthened, but
fraud
won't be touched. Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff is going to be touched.
Nothing.
Pause it. Okay, we're getting to the Department of Education stuff in a second. But that's news to the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans, who are currently negotiating in almost entire defunding of Medicaid.
Fraud is like the immigrant crime of these sort of benefits. Like there's no actual. They're
claiming there's $1 trillion in fraud, and there's no evidence.
But they're actually going after the whole enchilada.
Yeah.
And the issues they're going to have with how much they want to cut is that they will not be able to cut. The House bill will not be able to cut nearly as much as it may want without going into mandatory spending. Like, it's literally not possible.
Mathematically impossible, and mandatory spending includes Medicaid.
Right, and especially as Majority Leader John Thune has said too, if they want to make the Trump tax cuts permanent, they're going to need even more money to find it elsewhere to offset those tax cuts.
Right.
So like this is going to put them in a very, very, very bad bind of what they've said that they're going to do relative to what Trump is saying that they're going to do.
Both the Senate bill and the House bill are centered around gutting Medicaid, and Trump is saying publicly that they're not going to. So
Well,
these
it looks like the whole thing is fraud. Whoops.
But these negotiations are going to be a fascinating display. And again, the margins in the House are historically slim. And as I said in headlines, Trump's disapproval has gone up 10 points in less than a month.
And I don't know if I think it probably does need to be said to certain like Democrats. How could you negotiate with this administration, which is deciding all of your negotiations are bunk and could just be turned over to Elon and the most servile 20-year-olds he can find?
The Republican senators are panicking because they are the ones that allocated the funds that are supposed to go to their constituents. They get goodies in these bills, and even the Republicans have to answer in some way to their constituents.
Red states have research universities.
Yeah, like Alabama, we highlighted that. And so they're starting to get a little freaked out right now about their own butts, but it'll be fascinating to see how this goes regarding Medicaid.
Won't be touched. Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff is going to be touched.
Nothing.
You don't have to. Now, if there are illegal migrants in the system, we're going to get them out of the system and all of that fraud. But it's not going to be touched. School. I want to bring school back to the states so that Iowa, Indiana, all these places, Idaho, New Hampshire, there's so many places, the states, I figure 35 really run well. And right now, it's Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, China. China, can you imagine, has top schools. We're last. So they have a list of 40 countries. We're number 40. Usually we're 38, 39. The last time we were number 40. And what I say is you got to give it back. So it doesn't work. I'll tell you what we're number one in, cost per pupil. We spend more money than any other country by far. It's not even close per pupil. Okay. So we know it doesn't work. So we spend the most and we have the worst, right? The worst result. When we get
okay, I'm sorry. So education, we do not spend the most. All of the Nordic countries that he lists there, whether it's Denmark or Finland.
Charter schools?
Almost entirely public schools.
Oh, that was my second guess.
Oh, there you go. You hit it on the second try. And like, for example, in Finland, sometimes they tax people up to like 68%. A lot of folks. I mean, I think it's, I'm looking at this now, so forgive me, but it's significantly higher than what we have in the United States. At the very least in this current moment, it would have been comparable in the 60s to what Finland does or Denmark.
We have
bad
outcomes because we don't spread around the wealth and have a massively public, basically the same reason we don't have good health outcomes.
Right.
Is this should all be centralized and it shouldn't be based on how rich your zip code is.
Yes. So he's saying that we're the best, but we're also the worst. And we're going to cut funding for education to make us the best.
Get the illegals out.
Like the top education systems in the world, which tax people way more to fund their public education system. Okay.
Spend the most and we have the worst, right? The worst result. When we give that back to Indiana, when we give that back to Iowa and back to a lot of the states that run well, they run well. There's a lot of them, 35, 37, 38. Now you're going to have 10 laggards, but you're going to have
okay. So this is what kills me. So he lists the 37th, 38th, 39th ranked education states in the country, I guess, right? And says, I mean, they're doing pretty well. Relative to the other states, they're actually not. I mean, the top ranked education systems in this country are New Jersey, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Vermont, Massachusetts, New York, Maine, Colorado, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. Bottom, Arizona, Louisiana, Nevada, New Mexico, Alabama, South Carolina, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Florida, Tennessee. Well, at least according to this website, but I've seen worse for things like, Alabama, or Alabama was on there, but Mississippi, et cetera. There's no debate, and it's been this way my entire life, that red states have worse education outcomes than the blue states. And so he can't pick the states that he wants to. So he's picking kind of the ones in the middle around, I don't know, the 40th percentile.
37, 38. Now you're going to have 10 laggards, but you're going to have 5 real laggards, but that's going to be okay. Take New York. You give it to Westchester County. You give it to Suffolk County. You give it to upstate New York, and you give it to Manhattan, but you give it to 4 or 5 subsections. Same thing in California. Los Angeles is going to be a problem, but you're going to give it to places that run well. We can change education. Now, school choice is important, but that
ding, ding,
will get taken care of automatically. We want to bring education back to the states.
To the profiteers.
You will spend half the number, and I'm not even doing this. I'm not even doing this to save, but you will save. It costs you much less money. You get a much better education. If you go to some of these states, you'll be the equivalent of Norway, Sweden, Denmark, places that really have a good school system.
Fund education?
Those places will be the equivalent. And your overall numbers will get so much better.
Do you want standard?
Okay. Lots of gobbledygook, but the reality, and it's difficult to even discern what he's saying. I mean, he is just such a lunatic and has degraded significantly since 2016. The federal government accounts for around 13 to 14% of money that goes to public schools. But that's not 13 to 14% in every school district. If he's talking about Westchester County or some of the richest areas of New York or other blue states, it is very likely that they get 0% federal funding in some of those instances. It can be anywhere from 0% to up to 75% of the school funding. And you know where that high end number is? Poor areas, rural areas, areas that have children with disabilities, which is the DEI element, the DEIA, as Sam has kept pointing out. They leave out the accessibility piece because they want to obscure the fact that they're cutting funding for children with disabilities. But the federal government goes in and fills in the gaps in poorer areas where property taxes can't properly fund their education system. So the richest areas are already set with funding their public education with property taxes. I mean, the fact that he brings up Westchester County, I know this because I know people that live in Scarsdale. They go there knowing that they're going to pay high property taxes because of the school system. And what he's trying to do, and Elon Musk are trying to do, is gut the stuff that bridges the gap for the poorest people in our country. And frankly, this is about red states even more than blue states, as I just laid out.
Those two guys right there are literally the culprits for all of this. They're like as a symbol. They should be taxed way higher, and instead of giving all that money to play with and buy more hotels or play with spy satellites and all this sort of stuff, and buy company towns in Texas, that money should be going into schools to educate people so they aren't like dazzled by grok and whatever BS that these charlatans are pointing out to people. They have the money that should be going into these schools. It's not like they can't make it more efficient. What they mean by efficient is less money to teachers who, by the way, spend money in your community, and more money to guys like them who jet around the world, like Elon, getting huge contracts for stuff from the government.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out. Obviously, a little pep in our step today. Mm-hmm. The Wisconsin win was massive. It really was a massive win. I don't think there was ever a real serious notion that the Democrats would win in Florida's 1st and 6th, although it was a scary run, I think, for these Republicans there. But they closed the gap by 15 points. And there's a whole bunch of stuff to take from this. But here is Harry Anton breaking down Elon Musk's impact on this Wisconsin Supreme Court race. There's a couple of things to keep in mind here. One, the reason why we paid so much attention to this race, well, of course, Wisconsin's very important, and it could impact gerrymandering down the road in Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
And unwinding some of this, particularly for congressional districts, which could add a House seat or two coming from Wisconsin, maybe 3, I don't know. But it also understand that Donald Trump has been able to, in part, to cow all of the Republican lawmakers because of the threat of Elon Musk dumping a ton of money into primary races and running against them. And what Elon Musk just did was essentially send the message that he is toxic and that his money is toxic. And we're going to see, and you add that to what happened in Florida, where after Pennsylvania, we saw the same dynamic.
15 point swing in
15
Pennsylvania,
points.
and that's in that state Senate race. Flip to seat.
Now, there's
15 points in Florida, too.
We don't know if that's going to translate directly into midterm elections because we anticipate a slightly higher turnout, although the Wisconsin turnout was...
Oh, my gosh. 2.4 million people. That's a 40% increase from the last Supreme Court election in Wisconsin, which was 2023. There are only 3.8 million registered voters. That's incredible turnout.
Relative to a midterm.
This is why we liked Ben Wickler for DNC chair, by the way.
Relative to the last midterm, it was only 100,000 less voters.
Yeah.
So, and the Wisconsin, Crawford won by well over 250,000. So
yeah.
This is a bad sign
and
for the
Elon
midterms.
Broke the record for the most amount of money spent in a judiciary election in the history of this country, and he lost by 10 points. That's the top line.
We should also add, they ran out of ballots in a bunch of places in Milwaukee. I mean, so, like, this is about, Wisconsin is about as bad as it could be for Republicans, and just on a sheer numbers basis. But add in this, like, it runs counter to what had been being used to discipline Republican lawmakers, because Elon now looks like a liability as opposed to, in these elections, as opposed to some type of hammer. So here is CNN.
Let's start with a little bit of Wisconsin, right? An amuse-bouche on Wisconsin. This was a race. Elon Musk spent big in this race to sway the Supreme Court race there. And he also went to Wisconsin, which may honestly have backfired.
Yeah, I think it may have backfired. Look, I think if there's one thing we should be taking away from the results in Wisconsin and the polling that we have from Wisconsin and national, if you are a Republican candidate running in a swing state, you don't want Elon Musk anywhere near you. Yes, maybe you like the money, but you do not want his presence in your state. Why is that? Elon Musk simply put is an unpopular guy. He is political poison. Look in Wisconsin, his net favorable rating, minus 12 points, 12 points underwater. That is an even worse number when you look nationally. Look at that. It's minus 17 points. So if there's one big lesson to take away from Wisconsin is Elon Musk does not help Republicans when he shows up. If anything, the data suggests that he hurts them. Republicans, stay clear of Elon Musk if you want to win in a swing state, at least in terms of his physical appearance in your state.
What do we see in terms of swings in Florida?
What do we see in the terms of swings in Florida? You know, we were talking about Florida 6, and you can see it here. The election margins in the U.S. House District, Donald Trump won the 6 by 30 points. Last night, what did we see? We saw the Republican Randy Fine win by 14. That's a swing of 16 points. But that's not anywhere near the swing we saw in Florida 1. Look at that. Donald Trump won it by 37 points. The Republican won last night, but only by 15. That's a 22-point swing. We're talking about an average 19-point swing from the baseline back in 2024 in just a matter of 4 or 5 months. These are massive shifts. These are massive shifts to the left. Democrats really have to like this, even if the Republicans add it to their majority in terms of what this potentially means down the road. You take this type of swing, you put it on some swing districts, that's very good news for Democrats.
Now, all of us who have this certain political sickness over the last 24 hours, we're talking about Kansas, Harry. Why are we focused on Kansas?
Kansas is on my mind, and it's not just because I want to go home, Toto. Look at this. Kansas 4th District election margins. If you go back in time to 2017, what did we see? You know, you remember back in 2016, Donald Trump won the 4th District by 27 points. And then all of a sudden, this ruby red district, Ron Estes won in April of 2017, but just by 6. Ergo, a 21-point swing. Very similar to that average 19-point swing we saw in those deep red districts last night in Florida. And then you say, okay, this tells us something about the political environment going into 2018, where Republicans, of course, lost. And of course, generally speaking, we look back, special elections and midterm results. If a party outperforms in a special election since 2005, 5 out of 5 times they won and win the U.S. House. Perhaps last night in Florida is a sign of things to come.
And again,
So
Good breakdown.
there you have it. Now, look, Donald Trump is a loyal guy. Mm-hmm. He is not the type of guy who is going to jettison Elon Musk.
Throw somebody overboard just because everybody hates him and he can't buy love in these states. And like, it's almost like he smells. People don't want to be around him. It's the kind of guy that just has a bad odor when he walks into the room.
And on cue, here comes a report from Politico. Breaking
an hour ago.
Scroll down. Trump tells Inner Circle that Musk will leave soon. Scroll down here. This is just 11:17. President Donald Trump has told his inner circle, including members of his cabinet, that Musk is going to be stepping back in the coming weeks as his current role as governing partner. What? Ubiquitous cheerleader and Washington hatchet man. Now, here's the thing, is that like, Musk has done two things. He's gone in and he's tried to break our administrative state. And the other thing, again, like we say, he has been the sort of threat that has been hanging over the head of Republican lawmakers. So they're afraid to go to town hall meetings because they don't want to hear how angry their voters are. But they are also, that's like the rock. And the hard place, though, is that Elon Musk is saying, you got to keep doing this and keep your mouth shut, or I'm going to dump a bunch of money into your district and I'm going to oversee your primary loss. But now those people are going like, if he helps me win in the primary, just that him stink around me is probably going to make me lose automatically in the general.
In the general, right.
But I'm more likely to get support if I get through the primary just generically from Republicans. So it changes the calculation. That's the point. And so this is good news. Hopefully it will make the budget. And right now in the Senate, John Thune is trying to pass this week a budget resolution, which is sort of like the encapsulating legislation that sets up reconciliation. Remember, the Republicans in the House have already voted to essentially cut Medicaid by $800 billion. This budget resolution in the Senate is going to punt all of these different issues so they can just move the ball forward. But one of the issues that they also have to essentially punt, they're trying to use an accounting fraudulent technique. I don't know, a gimmick to pretend that the Trump tax cuts, which are set to expire by legislation, aren't going to actually expire. And therefore, they can calculate the baseline for what will be cut in terms of taxes as being a smaller amount going forward, but those taxes will be added in. And they don't think the parliamentarian is going to okay it, but they're deciding that the parliamentarian doesn't have to answer that question.
Right.
That it would be Lindsey Graham as chair of the Finance Committee. And then they're going to wait and see if the parliamentarian says that's okay. But the point being is they're going to pass this resolution without any of these things resolved. And this is a lot more complicated today than it was yesterday because they do not have this hammer of Elon Musk threatening anybody running for office. And so this is a big, big win in Wisconsin.
Huge, and also just reinforces what the core message of the Democrats has to be up until the midterms next year. Focus on Elon, even if he's forced to recede into his little, quiet space and just pour money in without being in the public, because that's what the suggestion is they still want his money. They just don't want his toxic personality and face out there all the time, right? So
I'm sure Musk will not be.
He doesn't have any ego issues at all. So it'll be interesting to see it play out. But making billionaires and making him the mascot of the billionaires that the Democrats are taking on, making that the focus is really politically salient and also the right thing to do from a policy perspective. So these two things coming together, it's just a good thing. And can I just read one quote really quickly from Pam Van Handel, chair of the Republican Party of Wisconsin's Outagamie County? I'm honestly shocked. I thought we had it in the bag. I thought Musk was going to be an asset for this race. People love Trump, but maybe they don't love everybody he supports. Maybe I have blinders on. Sorry, Pam. You're in a cult.
Nothing like waking up the next day and go, wait a second, what?
Jeez. Whew.
I mean, that win in Wisconsin, I mean, the 40% more people came out for this race than they did in the Supreme Court race, the last one. Now, 23. To be fair, that was in 23? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no COVID, there's no nothing. I mean, it is a big deal. And we're at midterm numbers for this. It's just nuts, really nuts. It's a really big deal in Wisconsin in and of itself, and it's going to change ultimately, perhaps, the congressional delegation. It's going to change a lot of things in Wisconsin. We should also just note that in this election, the voter ID requirements were essentially amended to the Constitution, and it won pretty big. This has been law of the land in Wisconsin for 10 years now. It was passed by the Republicans back in 2014. To a large extent, the Democratic Party, Ben Wickler, voting rights advocates, I think the ACLU is in on this. They have spent the past 10 years essentially getting people up to speed and trying to make sure that everyone who has the right to vote has some type of identification. It was a real problem for older people, particularly Black Americans who are older, because many times, when you go back 70, even 60, 80 years, 10, 15, 20 years ago, there just wasn't the documentation in many instances.
I imagine that correlates with poorer older folks too.
Definitely. And the Democrats really did not contest this amendment because in part it was an attempt for Republicans to bring out more of their voters. And I think the strategy was we have already dealt with this as a political matter, as an operational matter. And if we fight this constitutional amendment, we're probably going to lose, A, and B, it could draw out more voters. Now, in retrospect, Democrats did so well in this that it's hard to imagine there was any scenario with this Democratic turnout that the Republicans could turn out people to vote. Because even in the last midterms, I don't think the Republicans achieved the vote tally that Crawford did in this off-year, off-election being for the Supreme Court. Here she is at the podium after winning.
Just moments ago, I received a phone call from Judge Brad Schimmel conceding the race. As a little girl growing up in Chippewa Falls, I never could have imagined that I'd be taking on the richest man in the world. justice in Wisconsin, and we won. And Wisconsins stood up and said loudly that justice does not have a price. Our courts are not for sale. And to my friends, justices, Ann Walsh Bradley.
Okay, all right. And that point of the seat not being up for sale is an interesting one, because just the day, was it that day or the day before? I think it was. The video was taken down Tuesday.
Yes.
When it happened, I think it was on Monday. This video, and this video was taken down, and then some patriots put the video back up. Crawford, in her acceptance speech, says this seat was not for sale. Apparently, it was for sale. It's just that Musk did not pay quite enough. Here is one of Musk's recipients. He gave out $3 million, right? For people who ostensibly, the argument was like, I'm not giving it out to people for vote. I'm not bribing people to vote.
Right.
I'm rewarding people who did vote.
Okay. I thought it was two $1 million payments, but it doesn't really necessarily matter.
Or one? Or three, rather.
We're going to look into it.
The other one, I know at least what the other one was by a guy who was coincidentally head of the college Republicans. Is that it? And I mean,
it's just good karma.
Oh my gosh.
When the stars align like that, I mean, your candidate's got to win.
What are the odds?
Wait.
Let's ask Grok what the odds are on that.
You got to be so lucky. And then he ended up weirdly turning off his Twitter feed. But here is a video of Ekaterina Deisler. She's a graphic designer at Bellmark, which is a major contributor to local Republican campaigns. It makes sense that someone who is a supporter of the Republican Party would win this, because that's what Musk was trying to do. And he was trying to bribe people to vote and basically just draw up attention. But they got to vet these scripts. Go ahead.
My name's Ekaterina Deisler. I'm from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I did exactly what Elon Musk told everyone to do. Sign a petition, refer friends and family, vote, and now I have $1 million. My name.
I did exactly what Elon Musk told me to do, and now I have $1 million.
Apparently, it's not legal to pay people to vote.
Well, actually, here's the full quote. I did exactly what Elon Musk told everyone to do. Sign the petition, refer friends and family, and now I have the updated one. So in the updated one,
they took out
the vote part.
Because you're not allowed to pay someone to vote.
Yep.
Oh, someone just got doged.
I just want to say, Wisconsin, thank you so much for reacting in the correct way to the richest man in the world, coming in and trying to buy your judiciary.
Right. As he talks about Soros and complains about J.B. Pritzker putting some of his money into this race. Like, we need broad campaign finance reform. I think that's an easy sell if the Democrats choose to run on billionaires buying our elections and ruining our government. But because this is not sustainable in the long term, we have to overhaul our campaign finance system, because the billionaires are always going to be on the side of Republicans more so. But in the short term, he's just giving the Democrats a gift to run against Elon Musk. It's showing up in the numbers.
Also, it's a big giant lie that I think I saw some Republicans talking about this. But if you look at the numbers for spending, where people say it's not even close.
This is in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. It's a helpful graphic. Just how Elon Musk has seemingly contributed more than all of the other donors combined.
Also, Soros is fourth after two other Republicans that, Uline's, people might have heard of that name. I actually don't know who Diane Hendricks is. There's 2 Ulines in the top 5, so that's great.
Do you think it's like a little bit concerning that this administration is locking up anti-war protesters and claiming that they're anti-Semitic and hating Jewish people? But the Elon Musk and the entire Republican Party regularly traffics in this puppet master conspiracy about George Soros when the facts don't support that he's doing all this. It's super anti-Semitic and it doesn't get called out enough.
Musk is on a bit of a jag on Twitter at the moment.
He was quiet for last night.
He was quiet, but he's just throwing its stuff out there now about Social Security. He has retweeted, and this is, I love to see this. And this is the first time I heard this in the past like 24 hours. And you guys may not be aware of Saul Alinsky and how Saul Alinsky, when Barack Obama was elected in 2008, because Barack Obama was from Chicago, the entire conservative hive mind became convinced that Saul Alinsky was everywhere. And it was incredible. And one of the great things about it is that a lot of people on the left read Saul Alinsky for the first time because they were forced to because of the conservatives. And Saul Alinsky was sort of like a, messaging guy and sort of like a agitpop, maybe you'd call it. But Musk has a accuse your opponent of what they're doing to confuse and divide them, Saul Alinsky quote. And then there's pictures of all sorts of Democratic lawmakers with their arms raised in the air as if they're all giving a Sieg Heil, ostensibly to sort of, I guess, say Musk was unfairly maligned when all he was saying is, I give my heart out to you.
My heart goes out to you.
My heart goes out to you.
2 times.
Twice. So much heart I give to you.
88% of his heart.
Ich ein Harten given to you. And this is fantastic. I honestly, we need to see more Elon Musk. I think everybody agrees with that.
Agreed. More public speaking.
The Valor CEO and Doge volunteer Antonio Garcia says they found 5 million and plus non-citizens with Social Security numbers. One of those people who probably got one of those was an immigrant to this country who wanted to work, ultimately got a visa, probably was part of the EBE program or some similar program, and that would have been Elon Musk.
Could have been.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
I don't know if you guys remember, less than a week ago, Elon Musk went on social media and said he was going to try to start a third party, said Donald Trump is a part of the Epstein files, and that's why they're not being released. Just went absolutely
and then said, have a nice day.
Now he's, the come downs can be hard, right? You're feeling really up. He's having a good old time. And then in the cold light of day, you got to face the reality of what you've done, which may have included torpedoing the government contracts that keep you the richest man on the planet and keep your companies from falling apart. So he tweeted and tagged his ex.
First time he tagged, because everyone's like, this is how men actually fight. It's like they weren't even tagging each other.
Right. Just going at it blow for blow without being direct. Elon Musk, I regret some of my posts about President real Donald Trump last week. They went too far. And tagging him is such a desperate move, right? Like that's like in breakups when big fight, big breakup, you don't talk for a while, and somebody starts to like send memes or like tag you in little posts. Oh, we're reopening communication now. I don't know if Trump's going to take too kindly to this.
Well, he wanted to make sure.
Oh, no, Mike.
Oh.
There you are.
Being censored. He wanted to make sure Trump would see it, because
yes.
Otherwise, how could he be sure that Trump would have seen it?
I mean, do you think he has some sort of feature on Twitter where he can know if people have seen posts, like when people know if you've opened emails?
100%. Well, maybe not specific down to the user, because that would probably take too much resources, but I don't know. It's not implausible. But I just think, you're the richest man in the world, so it's funny to see a guy grovel like that. But people were saying that the way China dealt with Jack Ma, Elon Musk should be true with. I don't think we're going to do that. But I would just say the other thing is what does it say about his judgment of the person we put in charge of looking into the entire government finances? Like, this is proof. And also the old genius thing on Piers Morgan the other day about, this man is a genius. This is not a genius.
Yeah. Yeah, he's also being such a chicken shit about it. What's the sum mean? I regret some of my posts. Are you saying he's in the Epstein files, or are you not saying he's in the Epstein files? The other thing he said that I think was going to piss off Trump more was, you wouldn't have won the election without me. Trump doesn't like that. Trump wants to think that it's like the force of his personality that's making this happen.
But this piece in the New York Times is fascinating to me, because we could kind of summarize this. Axios put this NASA guy as one of the 4 reasons for the break, but this look, I don't like the New York Times. I think they've done horrible work on Israel Palestine, but this is great.
But Maggie Haberman in particular is well sourced with these Trump ghouls, and
exactly.
She gets the gossip for the paper of record.
President Trump was peeved just minutes before he walked into the Oval Office for a televised send-off for Elon Musk last week. An aide handed him a file. And I don't know if I believe this. This is just interesting that this is what the story that they're telling, right?
Right.
The paper showed that Mr. Trump's nominee to run NASA, a close associate of Mr. Musk's, had donated to prominent Democrats in recent years, including some who Mr. Trump was learning about for the first time. The president set his outrage aside and mustered through... So this is after the black eye meeting, right?
Right.
The president set his outrage aside and mustered through a cordial public farewell, but as soon as the cameras left the Oval Office, the president confronted Mr. Musk. He started to read some of the donations out loud, shaking his head. This was not good, the president said.
Okay, so here's the thing is this true? Does Trump really care about past donations to Democrats? Trump has donated to Democrats.
Exactly.
Trump was at Chelsea Clinton's wedding.
The Republicans used to hit him on it, and he's like, that's because I buy him up.
Right. Like, this just seems like such pretext, because he didn't tweet about Elon once after the Wisconsin debacle, where Elon Musk broke records in spending on a judicial race for the Supreme Court seat, and he lost by like 10 points because he was so toxic with that cheesehead jumping around. This just seems like pretext. The other article about his drug use, and now Trump's all concerned about him. That's been his tactic.
He's on drugs?
He's a very sick man. That article, also in the New York Times, again, these Trump people are well connected with some of those reporters, cites his drug use right at the beginning, or the article's about the drug use, and cites the fact that he hasn't made good on his $100 million donation to Trump's super PACs in the second paragraph, which seems to be, it feels like the motivation for this fallout more than anything.
100%.
Because Elon, what next does he want out of this? He doesn't like the bill, because it's causing Moody's to downgrade our credit rating because of the instability Trump has created with the dollar and with treasury bonds. So the more debt that's accrued, the more expensive it is for the United States to take out loans. And that could create like genuine economic precarity, which is why I think Democrats should take back the conversation about the deficit, not in a hawkery way, but in a way to say we can reduce the national debt and make us more secure by taxing the hell out of these billionaires and raising revenue.
Yeah, win-win.
That's what it should be the easiest narrative ever, but we've got donors to think of.
Rich people aren't paying their fair share. It's not because day laborers are sending remittances to Mexico.
Right. But this is part of what does Elon need next? Because he would need these government contracts to be maintained. He would need, SpaceX and Starlink to continue to get the giveaways that he's been getting from the administration. But he's gotten a lot of what he wanted, I think, probably through Doge. We have no idea what he scraped from government servers, because he was trying to catch up to Sam Altman and the other AI people because Grok is so far behind. And additionally, he wants to turn Twitter X into what PayPal was supposed to be in his mind, which is a payment system and a de facto bank. And what he needed to make that and get a head start on that was everybody's bank information, social security number, home addresses, all the information that would be pertinent to making that kind of system as accessible for people that they could join it, even if he's such a unsavory figure at the very top.
The only thing that separates these sorts of lords of innovation and technology and advancement of science is stealing shit. So the only competitive advantage he has is, look at all this government info that Sam Altman doesn't have.
Right.
It's the exact same way like Uber. Look at this great innovation, or DoorDash, this great innovation. No, what they're doing is hiring lawyers and politicians to carve them out of space. They're not doing massive innovation anywhere.
Right. But it is for these guys. They're all about data. It's the data wars. Who has the most data? Who can accumulate the most of information and put it into the machine that goes burr? And Elon's just running rampant. We should do more reporting, and maybe we should have somebody on, or stories by reporters about what's happening in Memphis, where he's just poisoning that entire community which has already been the subject of racist abdication by the state government, just pouring pollutants because of his massive computer data center into that community. That's what he wants to continue to be able to do, and that's what he sees the future as. So I just wonder if this kind of guy who's so erratic and on so many drugs, it seems like there's a bit of a pause in the fighting, a bit of a détente, if you will. But if Elon doesn't make good on those promises for Republican candidates, that's when it would get really funny. But here's I just sent this clip from Levitt. The White House is addressing this. This is why it seems like I don't think Trump's going to fire back. I mean, he values
J.D. Vance
richness, and J.D. Vance is close with Elon.
Well, the Theo Von thing was, they're clearly like a sort of Kissinger going to Pakistan to initiate talks between China or something like.
Oh gosh, you love the diplomacy being conducted between the two most powerful men in the world on Theo Von's podcast.
Exactly, Theo Von is the cutout.
Here he is, the mediator. Here's Levitt responding about a question if they're going to cut off Elon's government contracts.
Thank you, Caroline. About Elon Musk, he issued an apology this morning. Has the president accepted the apology, or does he think it's too little too late?
The president acknowledged the statement that Elon put out this morning, and he is appreciative of it, and we are continuing to focus on the business of the American people.
And has the administration started a review of Musk's government contracts, something that the president said he's considering?
What do you mean by that?
Has the administration started a review of the contracts that Musk and his companies currently have?
No efforts have been made on that front as far as I'm aware.
Okay. Thank you.
I acknowledge your apology.
Shouldn't be left up to Trump, and that's why we should have Congress subpoena Elon Musk, because he's clearly not cut out for this type of role in a society.
The fun thing is, it seems like Trump won by just sort of acknowledging and not accepting an apology, and then continuing with the uncertainty towards what his position will be on Musk.
Well, I mean, Trump has more power. I understand that Elon's the richest person on the planet, but those riches are very much in jeopardy if he doesn't get these government contracts.
And this is actually a lesson for Democrats that they should fucking act like it instead of acting like these guys are kingmakers. That you should, the second that they're a little bit spurned, you slide into their DMs being like, hey, can you finance my campaigns? Let's see what we can do for your contracts now.
How stupid are Richie Torres and Ro Khanna looking right now after openly thirsting for Elon's cash? It was so predictable that he was going to run back to daddy. Who else does he have at this point? And the problem is like, for him, at the end of the day, you can buy everything, but you can't buy likability and you can't buy political talent. And unfortunately for Elon, he doesn't have either of those things. And Trump, for all of his many, many extreme narcissistic character flaws, and the list is as long as a CVS receipt, he has political talent, and he actually has popular support among a significant part of the population, many of whom are completely brainwashed by him. But
this is where Elon was just, last week?
Yes!
Is it time to create a new political party in America that actually represents the 80% in the middle? Look at that 80% of the people.
Wow.
Said yes. I mean, just a brilliant genius mind that we all should respect and turn the keys over to the economic priorities of society to.
Go on, Adam Friedland, Elon. I think he has a center-left talk show. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that I would really enjoy that, honestly.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out. Over the past 3 days, we have seen, perhaps emboldened by the fact that Chuck Schumer capitulated in this fight with Trump. I mean, it would have been a lot harder politically to justify what is going on with immigration over the past 3 days and immigrants if people were afraid of losing fundamental essential services, but still essentially, in some instances, torturing, rendering green card holders, etc., had gone on. This is a video of a rapid response video of supposed Venezuelan gang members being deported and imprisoned in El Salvador.
This was tweeted out by the Trump, like their Truth Social, but also their White House account, which is this Rapid Response 47 thing that tweets out basically state propaganda for Donald Trump.
Now understand, these people were sent to El Salvador in 3 planes that while they were in the air, and it has now been shown by flight records, that they defied a court order. A judge had specifically said, Judge Boasberg had issued an order. I've lost it here now.
Essentially, if you want me to fill in the gaps here, Trump signed this order on Friday, and it was kept very quiet because they wanted to get the logistics in place to transport these around 250 Venezuelan immigrant men to El Salvador, where Bukele is notorious for essentially prison labor, putting their prisoners to work for no pay and extraordinarily harsh conditions. So even Guantanamo Bay, it appears, was a little bit too close to the eye of the public for Donald Trump. He prefers to outsource the detention of these people to an alt-right maniac in El Salvador.
The worst part about this, though, is, in addition, obviously, if you're one of those people, that the plane bringing these was ordered halted, and the Trump administration ignored it.
Yeah.
And then later claimed it was already over
international
waters, and therefore a judge's requirement of the U.S. government has no effect, which of course is, I mean, contemplate what the implications of that, if that were true, and no one thinks it's true. It would mean that anytime, I mean,
that Trump's in Air Force One, say a judge's order doesn't apply to him.
Or a military personnel is, deployed. Or somebody's on a cruise liner. it's absurd. National Security Attorney Mark Zaid wrote on X, court order defied. First of as many I've been warming and start of a true constitutional crisis. White House said this is headed to the Supreme Court and we're going to win.
Well, we can get to why maybe he's right in just a second, but do you want to play this? This is basically propaganda. And they show, I don't know if we see this part, but they show them shaving the heads of these men. Here you go. So this is footage of a...
Again, this is,
bus.
Leni Riefenstahl made this footage. This is Trump's propaganda team.
Yep. And the truth says these are the monsters sent into our country by crooked Joe Biden. Here you go. And then you can see this.
Radical left Democrats.
Always a...
These prison guards have their whole faces covered.
Yeah, why are their faces covered?
I mean, I'm sorry, but shaving people's body hair, this evokes some of the worst instances of genocide, of human rights abuses in our history. They're claiming that these men are Tren de Aragua, a gang, which Trump immediately classified when coming... I mean, this footage. Immediately classified as a terrorist organization when coming into office. But there's been at least one lawyer who's raised the alarm of one of these men who was transferred there, who says, actually, he was seeking asylum, my client. I think we're good on this.
Yeah.
Seeking asylum, my client, because he was an LGBTQ person in Venezuela and was a tattoo artist. So he had a bunch of tattoos on him. And the Trump administration is reportedly claiming that because of these tattoos, that he is a part of this prison gang. But he was supposed to have a hearing on Monday, one of these men, with proof that he was not a part of Tren de Aragua. And it's an interesting piece. It's an interesting, it's interesting timing that the Trump administration did this when they did it.
Again, this is the administration is, and as you can see, do we have this up? The judge, Boasberg, ordered deportation flights carrying these alleged Venezuelan gang members to return to the U.S. and blocking Trump from invoking the Alien Enemies Act. What is the Alien Enemies Act? It is an act, and we mentioned this earlier, I guess last week, from 1798.
But it was first used in the War of 1812.
It was used in the War of 1812, and then it was used again in World War I, and then in World War II. Now, those are the only 3 times it's been used. Do you see the pattern? The War of 1812, World War I, and World War II.
And in World War II, it was used to detain and intern Japanese Americans.
Yes, to put them in concentration camps.
Yeah, it was horrible.
But the invocation of this act, again, War of 1812, World War I, World War II. And it has not been invoked since then, or prior to those times. It is, again, only used in those instances in rather horrible ways. According to the statute, the president may invoke the Alien Enemies Acts in times of declared war or when the foreign government threatens or undertakes an invasion, that's a quote, or predatory incursion against U.S. territory. In the War of 1812, the idea of predatory incursion was a fear of essentially, sleeper cells.
The French.
The French.
The Federalists were concerned about the French.
Now, let's remember when it wasn't invoked. In the wake of 9/11, when there was a lot of talk of sleeper cells in the United States, because we had just seen so-called sleeper cell actually engage in a series of massive terrorist attacks against the country. So you may be asking yourself, why does he get to invoke this? And that's also what a bunch of lawyers are asking. The problem is that our law is only as ensconced as the particular court that they go to decides it will be. And at the Supreme Court, the president is counting on the idea of the Supreme Court essentially saying, we will not get involved in this because of the doctrine of political questions. This is essentially the political question doctrine essentially allows the Supreme Court to avoid addressing things when they don't want to.
Right.
And the problem is that there is no criteria that is any more specific than the idea of an incursion that is predatory. You will note that over the past several years, we have seen right-wingers, we have seen the president of the United States, we have seen conservatives, we've seen even some wayward former progressive shows and media outlets claim that we are being invaded by immigrants. Now, no matter how you define that, pull up that graph I just sent in the IM. It's surrounded by, it's right, the last thing I sent in the IM. This is from these hippies over at the U.S. Customs and Border Protection.
Oh, so much wokeness in our government. How can we get that out?
Southwest Land Border Encounters. Because, oddly, we don't hear how we're being invaded by the Canadians. But look at scroll down to this graph here. You'll notice there are different color-coded lines here. And we have 2025 is that red line that's down at the bottom. That is dramatically lower than any of the other lines, which are in the past 3 years. In terms of the annual, or I should say, Southwest Land Border Encounters by month.
And a continuation of 2024, I would point out.
Exactly. In 2024, at no point, except for I think like briefly at the beginning of, or I should say at the end, somehow that says December, but that's got to be December 2025. Oh, fiscal year.
They're looking at.
So that's the end of, these are fiscal years.
Yep.
That's the end of 2023. But even if you were to go back, but regardless, the point is that right now, in 2025, and in the last 7-8 months of 2024, the land border encounters by month in the Southwest have been dramatically lower than they had been prior. I don't know how you justify an invasion or a predatory incursion when there are 11,000, basically 12,000 border incursions or encounters.
Right.
But a tenth what there had been previously.
A tenth of what there had been.
But the problem with this statute is that it's particularly vague, right? So like, because it was, it's a late, 1700s statute. The Brennan Center for Justice writes that the term invasion is used literally, typically referring to large-scale attacks. The term predatory incursion is also used in writings of that period to refer to slightly smaller attacks like the 1781 raid on Richmond led by American defector Benedict Arnold. Today, some anti-immigration politicians and groups urge a non-literal reading of invasion and predatory incursion so that the Alien Enemies Act can be invoked in response to unlawful migration, etc. So the question is, does the Supreme Court grant them, when this inevitably goes there, the broad definition of what an invasion and incursion is? And if they do that, that is such a terrifying precedent that gives the president basically broad powers under this authority to determine, I don't know, anything as a potential invasion or incursion based on his political enemies. And that's what the fear is the fact that this can really mean a lot under this definition. If those numbers constitute an invasion and incursion, there are many things that can.
Right. There's absolutely no limiting principle to this. If there's no criteria and land border encounters can be at a fraction. In December of 2023, there were 300,000. In February, there were 12,000. That's 1/30th.
Yeah.
Am I math right there?
I can't. I'm not the person
Sorry, what was
to say.
it? 12.
300. We're at 12,000 versus 300,000 in 2023. That is almost 1/30th. Maybe it's 1/26th. If that can be justified as reason for the Alien Enemies Act to be invoked, then there is no criteria for it.
A rational Supreme Court would respond with this by saying the statute, the Alien Enemies Act, is lawful, but you have to apply it in conjunction with Congress and the president, or Congress declaring war and us being in active wartime. That would be the kind of thing where, like, that would be a much more good faith reading of the statute. But I have no faith that the 6-3 Supreme Court is going to read it in that manner.
So we're now in that period where, and we have more to talk about this in a moment. We're going to do some sponsors first.
Can I just point out this tweet here that was by Nayib Bukele, where he quotes the New York Post saying Fed's judge orders deportation flights carrying alleged Venezuelan gangbangers. Nayib Bukele tweeted, "Oopsie, too late," crying, laughing face, and Marco Rubio retweeted that. So,
I mean,
Marco Rubio, he's the Secretary of State.
Yeah, Secretary of State, our lead diplomat.
It was probably the only adult in the room this time around, is what it's has been said, and that's the best case scenario for somebody to talk Trump off the ledge now.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out. The midterms are coming up. Two important stories about this. One, this is Harry Enton on CNN with polling and comparing polling at this point in the cycle of the 2018 cycle to today. Now, the Democrats have done well in special elections. The progressives have done well in primaries, and just sort of the sheer numbers that have come out, for primaries has been encouraging. However, Chuck Schumer's grand plan to hide what the Trump and the Republicans are doing to the average voter seems to be failing.
The bottom line is this: Democrats are behind their 2006 and 2018 paces when it comes to the generic congressional ballot. What are we talking about here? All right, the Democrats versus the Republicans on the generic congressional ballot, the margins. Look at where we are now. Democrats are ahead, but by just 2 points. Look at where Democrats were already ahead by in 2017. They were behind by 7 points. How about 2005 on the generic congressional ballot? Ahead by 7 points, ahead by 7 points, and now they're only ahead by 2 points. Their lead is less than half of where it was in either 2017 or 2005 in July of those years, the year before the midterm election. Yes, Donald Trump may be unpopular, but Democrats have not come anywhere close to sealing the deal at this particular point.
Yeah, wave looks very different.
Yes.
All right, this is the generic ballot test. This is when you test people in the generic. These races aren't generic.
I got to do this. I'm not a math guy. Harry Enton is. But 2 is not just less than half. It's less than a third. Go ahead.
Yes.
All right, this
Had
is
to
the
do it.
generic ballot test. This is when you test people in a generic question. Of course, the House races aren't generic. There are 435 of them. What happens when you go race by race?
What happens when you go race by race? Well, it's the same idea. Okay, House seat ratings with a GOP president, like back in 2005 and, of course, 2017. More net pickup seat chances. Well, last time around, look at that. Democrats were ahead by 33 seats. How about in 2005? Democrats were ahead by 7 seats. What's going on right now? It's actually Republicans. Actually, Republicans with more net pickup chances at plus 12, according to the Cook Political Report, when you add in the likelies, the leans, and the toss-up races. So it's not just on the generic ballot where Democrats are behind their 2017 and 2005 pace. It's actually when it comes seat by seat, you see that, at least at this particular point, Republicans actually have more net pickup opportunities. This doesn't look anything like those wave elections back in 2006 or 2018.
If it doesn't look anything like those years, what does it look like?
Okay, so what does it look like? Well, let's take a look back at the generic congressional ballot. What was going on in Ipsos in October of 2024? Democrats were ahead by 2 points. Look at where we are now. Democrats ahead by 2 points among registered voters. At this particular point, this election cycle looks a lot more like 2024 than it does than either 2018 or 2006. And so, of course, Republicans actually held onto the House back in 2024. Will it happen this time around? We'll just have to wait and see. But for anyone who's writing the Republican House's political obituaries, hold the phone. This is a reality check. Republicans are still very much in the game.
And to be clear, this is after the passage of this bill. And people are not going to feel the cuts to Medicaid until after the midterm elections. The entire strategy that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries counted on right now looks like an abject failure. And understand, there is a sort of secular bias towards the party that is out of power in these midterm elections. So the idea that even just like sort of generically speaking, if nothing had happened, the Democrats wouldn't take the House with a margin of 3 votes. That should be obvious. That should be obvious. But the failure of the national Democrats to show any fight. Well, someone name for me one thing that the Democrats have very publicly fought Trump on, like legislatively speaking.
The name of the bill.
The name of the bill. They were able to get rid of the name of the bill, which everybody still refers to it that same way. But honestly, like, can anybody even pick out a fight? There was one opportunity, and that was the budget.
Yeah.
And they blew it. They purposefully blew it.
All Schumer does now is sort of say, well, it's horrible this thing just happened. The American people won't forget it come election time. Well, come polling time, it seems like they don't get it.
It doesn't even seem like they remember it a week and a half later. They won't forget what? That you guys just said there, like, okay, we'll pass your budget. Well, we can't do anything about the reconciliation bill. Who knew? Well, it's too bad all those judges are already on there. But Mondani, whoa, we got to worry about anti-Semitism.
At a certain point, you hope the self-preservation instincts of lower-level Democrats kick in and try to shake off this inept leadership.
I mean, are there enough who feel like they're endangered? Probably not. I mean, it's just absolutely pathetic.
I bet that polling doesn't even take in the gerrymandering into account either.
Well, that's the other thing. We see generic polling look anemic for Democrats at this time in terms of Congress. We see the race by race polling look favorable to Democrats. To Republicans in terms of the House races. And now Donald Trump has ordered the state of Texas to hold a special session so they can do mid-decade redistricting, which rarely happens. In fact, many states have laws that say you can't do this. People redistrict based upon the census, or I should say states do. When people have moved around, we have a different population. We may have lost a seat. We may have picked up a seat. Texas is looking to redistrict and gerrymander, and they're doing it in the most explicit way. Here's Donald Trump just telling you.
This would be the biggest one, and
so
that'll be fine.
Are you calling in for a complete redrawing of the congressional map ahead of next year?
Just a very simple redrawing. We pick up 5 seats. But we have a couple of other states where we'll pick up seats also.
In other words, well, not in other words, he's explicitly calling on Texas to redraw their districts, to gerrymander and get Texas Republicans another 5 seats in Texas. Now, one caveat to this, right now, the current congressional Texas map is designed for 25 Republicans and 13 Democrats. And the way that you gerrymander to ostensibly get 30 Republicans and 8 Democrats is by changing the lines so that you move Republicans into Democratic districts. However, when you move Republicans into Democratic districts, you're also removing Republicans from Republican districts and adding Democrats because you need to keep more or less the same populations there. And in a great breakdown from the American Prospect at prospect.org, you should always read that. The Texas map, which is designed for safety, has very few swing seats. There's only Henry Cuellar, a Democrat in name only, and Vicente Gonzalez. And these are swing states where, a few Republicans in there could theoretically turn them red. However, in all these other districts, you're going to have to make more Republicans vulnerable, which could theoretically, in a wave election, pick up, even after you've gerrymandered to make them Republican seats, pick up more Democratic congressional members there. But the problem becomes if it's not a wave election. And the problem becomes if the generic ballot looks like what the generic ballot polls look like today. That becomes a big, big problem. So Democratic leadership has to start fighting and indicate that there's a problem with the Republican Party rather than going on a Sunday morning talk show and talking about it. Or rather than the news is, I set the record for talking the longest amount of time in the Senate or in the House. You literally need to actually fight legislatively. That means you don't vote for nominees. You do things that show that you're obstructing. And you can't do that if you're afraid of being seen as being obstructive. But if you're not obstructive, you're not going to show the American public that you're fighting for anything. It's just an amazing mentality. And the one thing that Mondani showed these Democrats that they cannot see, they think it's Instagram, or he's got the pie in the sky proposals to open 4 grocery stores. It's that he was willing to go out, take positions, stick to them, despite the fact that he was attacked by them, that he projects that he's going to fight for people, whereas Andrew Cuomo looked like he was just I'm going to chill.
But he's on the fight and deliver platform, Sam.
Oh, Cuomo is?
Yeah, that's his party name, I guess.
I didn't realize. There you go. Well, it's the no show but tell platform. Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out. Freezing on federal grants was rescinded. Now, not necessarily the NIH grants or some of the other health grants. Let's just be clear. The chaos is the point. I keep reiterating this, but Russell Vought, the head of the OMB, the guy who basically came up with the one of the core agendas of Project 2025, who worked for Trump in the last term, is going to work for Trump in this term, and in between was basically set up a Trump administration in exile. He is on record of saying that their agenda is to traumatize federal workers. And in the either by design or as a byproduct, you're going to traumatize a ton of Americans. Obviously, the federal workers are Americans, but people who rely on the government. And whether that means your Medicaid payment, you can't get your drugs at the drugstore, your rural drugstore, because Medicaid is not doing reimbursement rates because they shut down the portal, or whether it's you don't know if you can send your kid to daycare tomorrow because when you went in today, the head of the daycare said, we didn't get our Head Start grant that we're supposed to get. I can't pay my teachers, or my teachers are going to quit tomorrow, or whatever it is. All of these things. And this woman was under the impression that her SNAP payments were going to get cut off. The confusion is the point. And she may or may not have the savvy to know, oh, this is not actually a function of the government. This is a function of the Trump administration. And in 4 years, it's possible to have a different administration and the government will behave in a different way. She may or may not know that. But the relationship between people and the benefits, the advantages, the help, stuff that they don't even necessarily are aware as a function of the federal government, is being severed. And that's part of the plan. Look at the way that she reacts when she hears that she may be losing her SNAP benefits. And understand, there's not that many. The amount of money we're talking about is minimal.
Somebody to fucking tell me they're lying. I need somebody to fucking tell me they're lying. I need somebody to fucking tell me they're lying right fucking now, because what the fuck do you mean that I'm not gonna get my fucking SNAP benefits? What the fuck do you mean? Because what the fuck is happening? Do you understand that there are people like me who cannot work? Do you understand there are people like me who have kids who cannot eat? Do you understand there are people like me who go hungry the last week of the month just so my kids can't eat? Because SNAP benefits is all we fucking get. I need somebody to please fucking tell me he's lying. I can't. What the fuck am I gonna do?
This is, we don't need to play out the whole thing, but this is, this reaction in some form or another reverberated throughout the country. Whether it's, somebody who gets their cancer treatment cut off because the NIH's grants are frozen, whether it's, some PhD student who's like going to go into this research and they called it off, whether it was people working at federal agencies who are seeing the writing on the wall. They don't know if they're going to have a job next week.
People who helped our occupation of Afghanistan, who are now just, left out.
You can just extend this to the Venezuelans who are here on temporary protected status because we, in the course of our attempted coup under Trump, not to mention all the other ones, but destabilized their country. I mean, it goes on and on. This is a feature, not a bug of everything they're doing. This is exactly what they want. And it's a perfectly rational reaction to it. And this is the importance of the federal government to people. I don't know what else to say about it. This is what they want.
This is a submerged. This is the type of thing we should be hearing a lot more of. Like people with this perspective, I see this woman invited to talk on talk shows about the importance of SNAP and stuff like this. And it's not really the point here, but the first time I saw this video, it was of Democrats saying she deserved it because she voted for Trump. And I'm actually seeing it even in our chat. Did she vote for Trump, or in that question? No, she didn't. She voted for, and she said, actually, we warned you about voting for Trump. So she voted for Democrats. That's a sickness to even ask that question about this, in my opinion. Like, I just think people need to get their priorities straight.
Number 13, I'm sorry, Sam, but I think you underestimate people's ability to associate the Trump association with this. It's the easiest association to make. Why do you think they rescinded the order? It was unpopular and they miscalculated. Republicans aren't geniuses and our population isn't completely dumb. There was a huge fuck up, and I think it lost them a lot of leverage. I mean, I agree. I'm not saying, we have a big country. It's not hard to find people go like, government hands off my Medicare.
I mean, even in the Dust Bowl, there was an issue with like Okie refugees, literally climate refugees, not wanting to take handouts as they were treated as we treat refugees currently. Like it is a sort of thing, but a sort of American thing that needs to be overcome. Of like, look, you get help.
If people were more aware, and I listen. This is, you see the president rescind this order, not because necessarily that woman is suffering or there are people out there who understand this. It's because senators get, what was it? Was it Cornyn today during RFK's hearing was talking about PEPFAR? I think it was Cornyn. Some Republican was talking about PEPFAR. This is his pet project about, AIDS work in foreign countries. That gets cut off. He calls the White House. What are you doing? There's no doubt they get pushback on this. But understand, if you want to make the argument to me that the American public understands the relationship between themselves and government, I feel like I have a fairly strong case. When people are out there saying, look, the government's too big, they have no idea. We spend too much money on foreign aid. And they would say this, incidentally, before, Israel and Ukraine, when a fraction of our budget is there. I just had a debate with 20 ranging from ding-dongs to just misinformed people out in L.A. Apparently, it's coming out February 16th. And I can assure you, the level of misinformation as to what our government does is astonishing. There's a lot of things I can be accused of, but overestimating the broad ignorance of Americans as to what government does for them. And at least what it does, I don't think is one of them. King of all IMers, what's yellow and fuzzy and red all over? A baby chicken in the HHS secretary's blender. Okay. Risa, Matt Leck, can you apologize for calling Catholic converts freaks so this one person in the Discord can move on with their life?
I can. I do kind of believe it, I must say. I think a lot of especially conservative who go to Catholicism later in life, I got to say I have a prejudice against them. I will confess it. If you came to Catholicism for another reason, say you're a migrant in Central America or something and like the Pope's outreach, you're not a freak. Enjoy the church that I left.
Somebody just lost some of their dessert privileges at the commissary. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.